Thanks everyone again for joining today's press conference on new evidence with eyewitnesses in the Anthony Sanchez case. Today we're going to hear from the attorney Greg Gardner, and then we're going to hear from investigator David Ballard, and then investigator Tara Cardinal, as well as the spiritual advisor to Anthony Sanchez, Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood. And then finally, we'll wrap it up with Death Penalty Action Executive Director Abraham Bonowitz. So let's turn it over now to attorney Greg Gardner.
Greg, please unmute.
Yeah, did that get it?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. And I'm an advisor to Anthony Sanchez. As far as legal matters go, there's a few things that Anthony is facing. The most immediate one is innocence. Mr. Sanchez is innocent. He is factually innocent. He did not commit this crime. Unfortunately, it's an uphill battle to prove innocence. You have a high bar to show that you are innocent, and you have to bring forth all of the witnesses, which we will be doing. That's the main thing that Anthony is facing right now. He also is looking at DNA, as has been reported widely. There is some funny DNA results from the trial, which previous counsel has not looked at in any meaningful way. We would like to look at that in a meaningful way and have items retested by the Attorney General. The Attorney General has said that he's not going to retest any additional items or any additional samples. We are hoping to change his mind so that we can figure out exactly whose DNA is where, and that should show who did this, and we think that it will show that Mr. Sanchez is innocent. Those are the main things that Mr. Sanchez is facing right now and what he will be fighting right now legally. And yeah.
Greg,
Perfect, thank you.
Yourself a little bit more, please.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Could you introduce yourself just a little bit more so people know who you are?
Sure. Again, my name is Greg Gardner. I'm an attorney who only does death penalty cases. And I started out as a public defender in the DC area and became a criminal justice act attorney in DC itself. And at that time, I became an adjunct professor at American University's law school and was contacted by a man on death row in Texas who needed help. And that's how I started working on death penalty cases. I've done death penalty cases in Texas and Alabama. And now I'll be helping Mr. Sanchez in Oklahoma.
That's great, thanks. And once again, I'm Blair Fitzgibbon with Death Penalty Action, and the media is allowed to record any of this. Now we're going to turn the call over to investigator David Ballard. Go ahead.
Thank you, Blair. Well, there he goes. Thank you, Blair. As I said, I'm David Ballard. I'm a private investigator in Oklahoma. I'm one of the investigators on Anthony Sanchez's case. Since the recent media attention that has came to this case, we've been fortunate enough to have witnesses come forward who contacted my office, had contacted Tara Cardinal, one of the other investigators, and we've been able to find some information that hadn't previously been talked about, or people didn't know they exist. We have witnesses now that can put the father of Anthony Sanchez, Glenn Sanchez, in the vehicle, in Julie's vehicle, the day of that she went missing and the crime occurred. So that's been good. We've had some other witnesses come forward that been able to point that we weren't the only ones that looked at Glenn years ago. As we've said before, that it appeared that way. It appears that Glenn Sanchez has always been a potential suspect in this case, but was not pursued past anything else that they felt like they had. So we've been conducting interviews with witnesses and getting information. It's helped with our timeline. It's helped us to understand some things about the case that we didn't previously know. So, and so grateful to all the media that has covered this and put that out there. And we're hoping for continuation of that, because with the new information, we also understand that there's possibly 3 more suspects that need to be identified. And hopefully the outpour of media attention as well will get other people to come forward, so we can have the 100% truth of who all was involved in this, what happened. But one thing that's been clear with witnesses that we've talked to is with lineups and everything, nobody has picked Anthony out of the lineups. So that's been interesting.
Great. Thanks a lot, David. Now we're going to turn the call over to Tara Cardinal.
Hi, you're muted, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Tara Cardinal. I've been working with David Ballard on this case since December. So let's just get right to it. Of all the people that I have personally spoken to, every single one has started off by saying that they didn't know if this tidbit of information would be helpful, but due to the media coverage, they felt compelled to come forward and state what they knew. So all the information, well, this information that we have right now, it's due to the media and your persistence and dedication to covering the story. And I can't thank you enough. Our team can't thank you enough. It's been invaluable. And so what's been really interesting are the phone logs that we've been looking at from Ms. Buskin's phone post-mortem, taking our cue from one of the appellate judges who had mentioned that some of these phone calls couldn't be a coincidence. So what we've been able to do now, based on the tips that have come forward, is identify some people who can be tied to those phone logs definitively. And without giving away too much of our investigation or jeopardizing it, I'm hesitant to say more.
Great. Thank you so much again. And now we're going to turn the call over to Anthony's spiritual advisor, Reverend Dr. Jeff Hood.
Good morning. You know, as we've gone through this case, as we have introduced new evidence, as we've introduced new ideas, new thoughts about the case, the Attorney General's office has consistently come back with incredibly demeaning and hateful statements with regards to Anthony Sanchez. We know that they have called Anthony repeatedly a coward for accusing his father of such a crime. New witnesses who have come forward, who David and Tara have mentioned, have spilled the beans, if you will. We now know that the Attorney General's office has known for years that Glenn Sanchez is a potential suspect in this case. We also know that the prosecution in this case knew Glenn Sanchez was a potential suspect in this case. We have been treated as if this is brand new information. We have been treated as if Glenn Sanchez just popped out of thin air. We've been treated as if Anthony is just coming up with this to save his life. We have repeatedly been told that Anthony Sanchez is a coward. Attorney General Drummond, you might call Anthony a coward. But as far as I'm concerned, those who lie to the people of Oklahoma are cowards. Those who would hide behind their spokesperson are cowards. You have known for well over a year that Glenn Sanchez is a possible suspect in this case, and your office has done nothing to investigate it. In fact, you have raced to execute Anthony Sanchez. Anthony Sanchez is no coward. If the Attorney General of the state of Oklahoma doesn't do more to solve this case, then he is the one who is a coward.
Thanks so much. Now we're going to turn the call over to Abraham Bonowitz with death penalty action.
Thank you. Thank you all. I also want to appreciate the media that have covered this case. We understand that it is because the two witnesses that came forward that saw Julie Buskin's vehicle the morning of her abduction, it's because they happened to see a TV report that this execution was coming up, that they realized they needed to come forward. We are today launching or replacing some of the images on the billboards we've been renting. We're letting go of the one in Norman, but we're going to keep the one in Oklahoma City. We'll be able to send out the location of that. We're waiting for the artwork to be approved by the billboard company. We just put this together last night. I'm going to show you some of the graphics that we're putting out on social media. And where'd that go? Let me just move that around again. Sorry about my technological. Yep, just show me where to push the buttons and I'll push them. Hey, here we go. All right. So these are some of the graphics that we're putting out there in social media, asking people to share. We've set up a tip line. People can call this tip line and leave information, because we now know that according to these witnesses, there were 4 other people beyond Glenn Sanchez in that vehicle that morning. And there's more information that we're not ready to share yet. But this is going to be floating out there in social media. This is going to be floating out there in social media. Who was with Glenn Sanchez? Who was in this car? Maybe somebody else saw it, but we got at least 2 people, a mother and a daughter, who saw this vehicle and who knew about it and who didn't do anything because, according to what I've been told, they thought it was all taken care of. So these are some of the billboard art that we've submitted to the billboard company. We're not going to be able to use this exactly because the billboard company got back to me and said they can't use full names or pictures. So we're redoing the art. We're going to be submitting it, and hopefully we'll get it up by later on today, if not soon, because we know over 100,000 people are seeing this particular billboard every single day. Every week. Over 100,000 people are seeing this billboard every week. And maybe somebody who knows about this will come forward. It's already amazing what we've got. I also want to say that our primary ask to the Attorney General is meet with David Ballard, meet with Greg Gardner, hear what they're saying. You know, we don't even know if he's actually himself looking at this stuff or if he's just getting, the spokespeople and the gatekeepers are just keeping him away, and the political people, because maybe he's going to run for another office. We don't know anything about that, but what we do know is that we believe he is a genuine person who cares about getting the right person. And because why else would he be Attorney General, right? He cares about getting the right person. And that's all we want. As we've said in the film that we produced, all we want is the truth. And what's amazing is because of this publicity and the supporters that have allowed us to and given us the resources to put up billboards and yard signs and all that sort of thing, suddenly people are coming forward. Okay. In addition to the billboard, which has come up, we've also added on the webpage. Here we are. On the webpage is a form that people can fill out. On December 20th, 1996, Glenn Sanchez was seen with 4 unknown men in Julie Buskin's car shortly before she was murdered at Lake Stanley Draper. If you know who any of these 4 men might have been, please anonymously submit your information here. It's a simple form people can fill up. You can remain anonymous, and all we want is the truth. You know what we really want? What we really want is for the people that should be doing this, make sure we've got it right, for them to be doing it. That's the biggest puzzle in my mind, is why should we have to be doing this? But here we are doing it because it wasn't being done. And Anthony Sanchez reached out and asked for our help, and we're giving it to him. So with that, I want to again thank all the media. I also want to make sure you know we have been generating hundreds of phone calls and emails into the Attorney General's office every day since last week. Hundreds, at least. And you can call them up and ask them, what kind of phone calls are you getting? They stopped answering that question for me, but the first day they said we've had more than 400 phone calls, which is, probably forcing them to staff this. Okay. That's more money that's being wasted instead of seeking the truth. And the only ask is please meet with Attorney Greg Gardner and investigator David Ballard. So Attorney General Drummond, death penalty action is not calling you a coward. We're asking you to do the right thing. We're asking you to be very, very clear in seeking the truth and looking and following where does the evidence go. There's enough doubt to stop this execution. We believe there's enough evidence to free Anthony Sanchez. With that, I want to invite questions from the media. You can raise your hand or put something in the, so here's a question from Nolan Clay at the Oklahoman. Will this new information be submitted to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals? Jeff has responded yes. And the question is when. Greg, do you want to answer that any further? Greg, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll need to discuss that more with David before we give a date certain.
Okay, so what we know is 5 weeks from yesterday is execution day. So, there's not a whole lot of time. And this is all, Greg is brand new on this case. Anthony Sanchez asked to replace his attorneys, weeks and weeks ago. That was denied. And then Mark Barrett and Randall Cohen withdrew from the case. And you can ask them why they withdrew from the case. But they withdrew, and that made it possible, because unless an attorney says it's okay to talk to their client, you can't talk to their client. And Greg couldn't talk to Anthony until they withdrew from the case. And now Anthony is on his own. Greg is here to help him. And we are still here, Death Penalty Action, and David Ballard and Tara Cardinal and Jeff Hood are here, and others are here to help, doing the best that we can. This is a new thing for Death Penalty Action. We're glad to be able to step in this way, but it's stunning to us that we need to, put it that way. Other questions? Okay, well, we're going to continue working on this. We're going to ask for your help to put out the word that if you know anything about what happened on the morning of December 20th, 1996, contact us through the webpage, through the tip line. And, when we have more information, we'll be sharing it with you. Any final thoughts or comments or final questions?
Abe, I wanted to jump in really quick before we close it out. Anthony is, not afraid to die. He's a very brave person. There's no doubt about that. But I do think that there is a great fear that the truth will not come forward. Nolan, I see that question just pop up. There were four people besides Glenn that were seen in the car. But I was just finally going to say that as far as Anthony is concerned, he wants the truth. We want the truth. And I think the people of Oklahoma deserve the truth. No more hiding behind statements and whatnot, just the truth. Abe, you're muted.
I was asking if there's any further questions. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Nolan. You can all reach out, reporters, to Blair Fitzgibbon, who can connect you with whichever person you need to speak with if you don't already have their direct connection. So with that,
One more question.
what's that?
We got one more question
Oh, where's that?
about Indigenous voices speaking out.
Thank you, Gabriela Wells, for that question. I will share with you that we have reached out and spoken with. I have personally spoken with people from the chief's office of the Choctaw Nation. Anthony Sanchez is a member of the Choctaw Nation. This execution, if it happens, will take place on Choctaw land. And it's kind of unfortunate, but the Choctaw Nation has a policy of not speaking out in individual cases. What they've told me is that if they do one, then they've got to do them all, and they've been burned in the past. So therefore, they're watching to see what happens. However, they also have a known opposition to executions in general for the guilty and for the innocent. So beyond that, it's a good question. Where is the Native American community? Where is the Indigenous community? Where is others in who oppose the death penalty that could be speaking out as well? We believe that will come. I think that it's a challenge when the evidence is not as clear as it now is. We're committed because we've seen what we've seen, and because there was enough to make us think: is there doubt? Do we have we got it right? And we invite the world, as many people have been helping us with the phone calls into the Attorney General's office, asking him simply meet with the investigator. So there it is. As to other ideas for organizing, please be in touch with me directly. And with that,
One last question, you see?
what's that? Another question?
Yeah, NAJA have been reached out to or not?
I'm not sure who NHA is, and Gabriela is a fellow activist, not a member of the media. So are there any other questions for the members of the media? Okay. Thank you all very much. I'm going to just take us out with a short video about the work we've been doing in Oklahoma, and appreciate you being with us today. And we look forward to the next steps in this case. Well, thank you, Gabriela. We have, and we will again. And if you can help us with that, please do.
Whether it's members of the legislature, the governor, the attorney general, this idea that they're going to really get hit electorally if they don't support the death penalty is just wrong. And so as we're conveying this to them, and as you all are talking to your representatives and senators in the legislature, that's the message they need to hear.
Today, having a prayer vigil to stand against the 25 men that are scheduled to be executed executed in the state of Oklahoma, starting with Mr. James Coddington.
And we're now going to bring a petition signed by over 6,000 people in the last few days to the governor, asking him to reconsider. We have until 10 a.m. for the governor's heart to change.
Tomorrow, the state of Oklahoma is choosing vengeance over mercy. We need to not continue to invest our resources in getting to the execution chamber for these 25 people. We need to spend money on things that will reduce the likelihood that people in the future will be capital murderers.
We're here because we're very disturbed by the fact that our state is about to execute 25 people. In our opinion, that is state-sanctioned killing, which is against everything the governor has purported to stand for in the grounds of his faith. Because of that, we want to make sure he receives this petition, which is signed by over 6,000 people just in the last few days.